because a lot of people seem to like, the bedtime videos. And I love making them too because I like being able to give back to the ASMR community and the people who have helped me sleep many times. And a lot of people love the bedtime stories. And so I wanted to do a new one. And this time I'll be reading a whole book. Not the whole book, like in its entirety, but like a few chapters. And it's going to be Elemental Ice Wolves by Amy Kaufman. It's been a wonderful book to read. I just haven't had a chance to finish it because I have been working on like this channel, trying to get stuff done for it and family stuff. But I promise you guys, it's really good. It's really fun. And I just want to thank all of you who've taken the time to watch the past, 3 ASMR videos I've done. I know they're different because I'm not showing my face, but I'd rather keep the focus on what I'm doing in the video so that you all can feel relaxed. And I wanted this to be like an audio series, And so before we get started, I hope that you all will have your headphones on. Make sure you have the notification bell checked so you don't miss anything, especially with the ASMR stuff. And if you know anyone that likes ASMR, be sure to share this video so we can get this stuff out here. Thank you all, and let's get started. Also, I just wanted to take a deep breath and just realize how amazing you are, and that you can do anything you put your mind to, and that you are a valuable person. In Jesus' name. Alright, let's start. Chapter 1. Raina was confidently leading them in the wrong direction. Anders hurried the crowd after her, ducking as a woman was nearly sideswiped him with a basket of glistening fish. The stink washed over him like a cloud, and then he swerved away, leaving it behind as they ran through a stone arch. Raina, where she was already turning the corner, running out across Hellstewstrat? What kind of name is that? Anyways, nipping in front of a pair of chestnut ponies that were hauling a wagon full of barrels over the cobblestones. Anders jogged from one foot to the other, waiting as they rumbled past, then took off after his twin sister again. Raina! She could hear him. He knew that when she flashed a quick grin over her shoulder, white teeth gleaming in her brown face, but she didn't slow down. Her thick black braid bouncing as she jogged. He was stuck trying to catch up again. This always happened. Raina, he tried one final time just as they rounded the corner to see the roadblock ahead, manned by guards clad in gray woven uniforms. Without breaking stride, Raina whirled back the way they came, grabbing Anders by the arm and yanking him with her around the corner. His heart thumping at the close shave, he leaned back against the cool stone wall. Guards, she said, tucking her coat straight. I know. They're on every street of the north side of the city, he told her, checking everyone who comes through. Her gaze flicked back toward the corner. Was there another dragon sighting, or are they just doing extra patrols before the youth war trials? There was a dragon in the sky just last night, he replied. I heard them talking about it in the tavern when we were climbing down from the roof first thing. He didn't point out that Raina had missed that information because she'd been too busy telling him their plans for the day. They said they saw it breathe fire and everything. That silenced even Raina for a moment. Dragons had been gone from Holbard for 10 years now, but lately they had been seen in the sky overhead. Anders and Raina had seen one themselves 6 months before, on the night of the last equinox celebrations. It had breathed white fire as it circled above the city, then vanished into the darkness. An hour later, a set of stables in the north of the city was ablaze with the ferocious white gold dragon's fire that was almost impossible to put out, leaping from place to place faster and fiercer than normal flames. By the time the buildings had reduced to ashes, the dragon was gone. With it, the son of the family lived above the stables. Dragons always took children, the story said. The weak, the sick, and the defenseless. Maybe the guards think the dragon from last night could still be spying in the city, hiding in human form, Anders said, or planning to start a fire. Raina snorted. What? And they think if they ask people, they're just going to admit they knew where a dragon was, but decided not to tell anyone? He nodded, lowering his voice to do his best impression of an upstanding citizen. Yes, guard. In fact, I scorch dragons on my roof because I want to be roasted alive, and I don't believe in public safety. I feel a little bit guilty about it, and I've been meaning to confess to someone or to somebody, but I wasn't sure who would want to know. At least you'd be warned, she giggled, kicking at a slushy, melting pile of snow. He returned to his own voice, her giggling helping chase away his own nerves, as he had hoped it would. You never know if you don't ask, but though he smiled along with her, even the words put a twitch between his shoulder blades. Scorched dragons. They were the one thing every person in Holbard knew to fear, whether they were locals or traders from across the sea. There was new rumors every day that dragons were near the city again. Rumors they burned a farmhouse to the ground just last week. The farmer's family still inside. How far south do we have to go to dodge the guards? Raina asked, jolting him from that thought. It went without saying that they avoid them. Guards ask questions like, where are your parents? And other inconvenient things related to adult supervision. At last, 10 streets, he replied. A couple of them were in wolf form, and I think they smell it if you're worried. 10 streets, that doubles the distance to Trollic Square. Anders, if you knew where we were going the wrong way, why didn't you stop me? She was all indignation. Godly, these big words. Anyways, hands on hips. But he gave up before he started. Maybe you should have tried harder. It was his fault. They came so far the wrong way. I'm sorry, he settled on, but she was already moving again, heading south. We'll go over the rooftops. He was tall and gangling to her, short and strong, though the twins shared the same black curls and the warm brown skin. In almost every other way, they were different. So being taller, Anders boosted Raina up until she could grab the guttering. hauled herself onto the nearest roof. Then he scrambled onto a barrel and climbed after her. When he straightened up, he could see the rooftop meadows of Hobart spread out before them. Each square of grass was at least 20 houses long and 20 wide, rising and falling with the pitch and the slope of the roofs. The rooftops were covered in bright patches of wildflowers, red fantails tucked down in the gullies, yellow and white flame flowers bobbing in the breeze on the slopes, as well as the occasional herb garden where someone had a window big enough to climb out and tend to their plants. Thanks to the street children of Hobart, wherever there was only an alleyway between two stretches of grass rather than a white street, a plank of wood was almost always propped in place to serve as a bridge. You could travel half the city up here without ever needing to set foot on the ground. Anders and Raina ran across the grass together, climbing over the tops of the sloped roofs. It only took them a few minutes to find Trillwood Square, which wasn't as big as the larger town squares in fancier neighborhoods or down by the docks, but was always guaranteed to be packed with shoppers. Below them, they could see at least 100 people doing their shopping at nearly 20 different stalls, all squeezed in together, selling everything from flowers to eggs, second-hand clothes to hot sausages and bread. On a rooftop on the opposite side of the square, they saw Gerald, a dark-haired, dark-eyed boy of about their age, was pasty white skin hidden under a layer of dirt. He was a notorious pickpocket and ran with a couple of his brothers who looked like smaller versions of himself. Today, he studied Anders and Raina for a long moment, and then turned away, apparently confident the twins weren't a threat. Down in the square, there was a puppet show, setting up for one last performance before the dusk fell. The players assembling the wooden box stayed high behind to work the puppets, while out front, a self-playing harmonica sucked in wind spat out tunes. It was an artifact, an invention that channeled essence or magic, and probably worth more than the rest of the puppet show put together. The twins flopped down on their fronts, propping their chins up on their elbows of the harmonica, fell silent and the show began. They couldn't hear the voices of the performers from up here, but they could still tell which story it was. The trope was performing the last great battle. The time 10 years before, when Anders and Raina had been toddlers, when the dragons had attacked Holbred and the Wolf Guard had defended the city. A bunch of little wooden human puppets jumped and danced across the stage, going about their business, blissfully ignorant of what was coming next. They were beautifully made from creamy white polished pine through the darkest mahogany. They were as varied as the citizens of Hobart who stood watching the show. Anders heard the gasp from the audience below when red dragon puppets suddenly appeared, swooping low over the little playful puppets who scattered and ran about the stage, bobbing up and down on their sticks. One swooped up to pick up the smallest puppet, kidnapping a child. How are they going to shout? Raina began, but she got no further. Somehow a dragon puppet breathed fire. Not a cascade of white and gold fabric or some silly trick, but real fire. The flames raced along the fabric of the people's puppets' clothes, curling around each seam and enveloping the tiny figures until there was nothing left. How do they make it white? Raina whispered. And with those gold sparks, it looked like real dragon's fire. It's kind of a salt, I think, he whispered back, and iron filings for the gold sparks. This is the best battle show we've seen. I think these are more than just some fake dragons, you guys. The puppet, who hadn't been reduced to ashes, ran around the stage even more frantically. Anders and Raina leaned over the edge of the roof in anticipation. They seen one tribe of shape-shifting elementals, the scorched dragons, making their attack, and now it was time for the other, the ice wolves, the heroes of the battle. Another set of human puppets popped up on the stage, all clad in gray, and Raina pointed. There's the wolf guard. Watch. Beneath the wooden box, the puppeteers worked some trick, and in the blink of an eye, the wolf guard puppets turned themselves inside out. And on the inside of the puppets, we seen their wolf form. Now there were no longer guards in gray uniforms, but actual wolves, howling and creating spears of ice to drive out the dragons. The high-pitched noise was audible even above the gasp of the crowd. Those are some fancy puppets, Anders said, as a pair of wolf guards, real living ones, one just like the pine puppet, the other like the mahogany, walked through the square on patrol and nodded their approval as a dragon puppet came crashing down, defeated. Another dropped the tiny, kidnapped child puppet. Anders winced. He wasn't sure making a dragon drop a trowel from a great height counted as a rescue, but he probably wasn't meant to be thinking about that. Sure are fancy, Rena agreed, but fancy puppets won't feed me dinner. When Anders looked over, she was pulling her fishing rod from inside her coat, screwing the sections together until the handle was complete, and then taking up position at the edge of the building. There was a sausage seller right below them, a wizened little man, only his gray hair and thick green coat visible from Anders' vantage point. Raina lowered the hook, and when he wasn't looking, she carefully snagged one of his sausages. Below them, the crowd was still gasping over the end of the puppet show and handling up copper coins for the performers, arguing about how the dragon puppet had been made to breathe fire. Raina reeled the line back in quickly and carefully, swinging around toward Anders, who unhooked the sausage. He rolled over onto his back and made it swim up and down like they just caught a fish, or like it was one of the puppets below. Don't play with your food, she laughed, looking down to see about getting another. It had been a genius idea of hers to use the fishing line. Nobody ever looked up for a thief. Well, it wasn't true these days that nobody ever looked up. not with rumors about dragons in the sky again. But was still better than thieving on the ground. They have to do that tomorrow to get their hands on some coins. And they're sometimes worried about the stealing, but Raina always shrugged. There's no other way, she said. We'll take care of us, and they can take care of them. Raina was frowning as the sausage seller handed off the last of his wares to a customer and then began packing up his stall. And she dismantled her rod, wandering over to peer down into the alleyway behind their rooftop. Psst, she called, waving Anders across to join her a minute later. Look at the window. With a sinking feeling, he crossed over, then leaned out to take a look. He was pretty sure he knew where this was heading. There was a little window down there, half open. Raina, no way, he tried. Your legs are long enough, she said, and just think, we might be inside. A person, he said. A person might be inside. She waved a hand in dismissal. A window that small? No way does it land to a main rod. It'll be the bathroom or the pantry. Nobody'll see you. There was a dozen more arguments about why this was a bad idea, but Anders didn't bother making them. He knew how it would end, no matter what he said, and so instead sighing, he handed his coat to her, and then lowered himself over the edge of the roof. He ended up dangling by his hands, his feet feeling around for a window ledge as Raina gave instructions, and he began to worry he'd have to let go. It was going to hurt if he landed on the cobblestones. No duh, he might die if he landed on the cobblestones. Just as he was really starting to panic. He finally found the little ledge, getting both his feet onto it. He balanced carefully as he walked his hands down the stone wall, until eventually he was low enough that he could feed himself in through the window. He landed lightly in what turned out to be the pantry, arms windmilling as he tried to avoid tipping over into the shelves lining the small room. He stabilized and breathed out in relief. That relief lasted about 10 seconds before he heard the sound of the front door opening. The breeze created pushed through the rooms, and when it reached Anders in the pantry, it slammed shut the little window above him. He whirled around, reaching up to push it open again. His heart was sinking even as he turned. Sure enough, the lock clicked in place, and he didn't have to skip the key. Oh my god, why can't I say that word? He stared at his lost escape route in horror. Why did these things always happen to him? Footsteps approached, and he spun back, searching the tiny space for a good spot to hide. After a couple of seconds of a desperate consideration, he crammed himself behind a brown glazed pot almost as big as he was. He grabbed the lid off the pot, and the brine of the pickled vegetables wafting up to tackle his nose, and balanced it on the top of his head where he crouched. It was dark in the pantry, and if he was lucky, his warm brown skin would blend in with the pots around him. Though, in his experience, Anders was rarely lucky. The footsteps stopped just outside the pantry door, which was still ajar. Dug through it. He could see a woman who looked like she wanted to stand out as much as he wanted to blend in. She wore a truly magnificent hat adorned with boughs of expensive flowers. Her dress was large and purple, designed to take up lots of space, and she wore matching purple powder on her brown cheeks. She was clearly wealthy, and she had a healthy tilt to her chin as she leaned in to inspect herself in the hall mirror. Adjust the hat. That Dama Barrow, she said to herself, indignant. And Dama Charity, I'll show them whose sweet cakes are flat. We'll just see who's laughing at the next contest, won't we? Anders stared at her. Was she talking to herself? How long was she going to take? And how was he going to get out of there? If she caught him, she'd report him to the wolf guard for sure. Just as he was trying to remind himself to breathe slowly, there came a knock at the front door. Seriously, the woman in her hat, I said fat almost. The woman in her hat bustled away to answer, and a moment later he heard Raina's cheerful voice, though he couldn't make out her words. One thing you could say about Raina was that she always jumped in head first, whether or not she had a plan. Suddenly the woman's voice grew nearer again. I told you, I really don't want. Raina didn't let her get another word in edgewise, and suddenly Anders realized she forced her way into the house. As I said, we're offering free sausage to every house today only as a sample of our wares. I think you'll find we sell the finest sausages in the city of Holbard, Dama, perhaps in all of Phelan. He watched as Raina strode past the pantry door, followed by the woman who was clearly trying to get her out of the house. They looked in that moment as though they could be related. If Raina wasn't in a shabby dress and the woman wasn't in fancy clothes, they could be mother and daughter. This could be his and Raina's home. Suddenly, he realized that his moment of daydreaming had distracted him from the fact that the woman wasn't between him and the front door anymore. He dumped the lid he was balancing on his head and climbed out from behind the jar. He took a deep breath and then hurried out of the pantry, sneaking toward the front door. Hey, the woman's voice sounded sharply behind him. He ran for the door. Enjoy your sausage, Raina shouted as she followed close on his heels. She threw him his coat as they ran through the square, squeezing past the crowd and pushing their way into an alley on the other side. They were out of sight before the woman made it out her front door. Whew, said Raina. That was close. What did you get? Get? He echoed, pulling on his coat. What do you mean? Get? She repeated. It was the pantry, wasn't it? What food did you take? I had to give her the sausage to get you out. It was a good sausage, too. Man, sausages must be really rare in this part of the story, huh, you guys? I didn't get anything. I was too busy trying to figure out how to hide once the window closed, they admitted. Raina was quiet for a moment, but then she always did. But as she always did when he messed up, she grinned and slugged an arm around his shoulders. "It doesn't matter," she said cheerfully. "We saw a puppet show today. That was pretty good." Dusk was falling, and they both knew it was time to hole up for the night. It wasn't a good idea for 12-year-olds to be out after nightfall, so they made their way over the rooftops of Hallbar until they reached a tavern near the center of the town. "The Willy Wolf," the sign outside said. They had to move all over the city to scrunch up enough to stay fed, so they couldn't always make it back to the Wolf at night. But whenever they could, they did. The Willy Wolf was special. On the ground floor, it was bustling with business. The golden lights coming on one by one, noise spilling out into the street. But it had two more stories above that, the fairly tall for a building in Hobart, and it was on a small hill as well. Together they climbed up to the roof and lifted a hatch they found years ago, all overgrown with grass. Inside was a tiny attic, really just a space between the grassy rooftop above and the flat ceiling above. There was no way to get to it from below. It wasn't large enough for an adult to sit up inside, but it was just big enough for the twins to curl up and stay warm. Anders always thought that curling up inside the roof of the Willy Wolf was as close as he could get to coming home. It was their special place, their secret. Raina wriggled down first, and just pushed halfway in to look around and take in the view, which was quickly vanishing into the dusk. The thick city walls circle Hallbar, the plains and mountains beyond lost in the dark. The rooftop meadows stretch away in every direction, and to the east of him was the glint of the sea, the masts of the ships in the harbor. Just as he was about to pull the hatch down, he heard a soft mew from nearby. He waited another few moments, and a small black shadow with bright yellow eyes slipped up out of nowhere, darting down to join Raina. It was Cass, a cat that sometimes slept with them at night to keep warm. Anders pulled down the hatch on top of the three of them, and Raina spread the blanket over the two humans. Cass curling up at her feet, and her stomach was growling with hunger. He was sure his sisters was too, but neither of them mentioned the lost sausage or the fact that even surrounded by food, he hadn't even thought to shove any in his pockets. Safe together in their secret spot, evening didn't seem so bad. Still, he had to say something. "Thanks for coming to get me," he whispered. "Don't be silly," Raina whispered back. "What else was I going to do? We're a team." She wriggled one arm out from under the blanket to wrap around him. "We'll always be together, Anders. We'll always take care of each other. I promise, right?" "I promise too," he said, because of course it was true. But as they settled down to sleep, he lay there in the dark, waiting to drift away. He knew the truth. Raina never needed him like he needed her. And with that being said, this wraps up part 1 or episode 1 of this ASMR bedtime story. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know how you like the sound. I hope you all like soft snow sounds in the background. If you want that to be removed from this and for future episodes of this book reading, let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, you all be safe and sleep well and know that you are loved. And I appreciate every last one of you. And don't let anyone ruin your vibe. In Jesus' name, sleep well. Love you.